What is up, Pitt fans? Thank you so much for tuning in to Inside the Panthers on YouTube. My name is Stephen Thompson, coming at you with another Inside Pitt post-game report. It is late or early, depending on how you look at it. And I want to lead off this video by telling you that 9 o'clock Eastern tip-offs for college basketball games are probably the worst thing to ever be invented in the history of sports. I hate them with a passion. I've hated them for my entire life, and I hate them even more right now. It is late or early, depending on how you look at it. I'm back in my home. I spent the evening in Morgantown, West Virginia, watching. I'll complain about the 9 p.m. tip-off all day long, but man, the game I got to watch tonight, which was a 9 p.m. tip-off, was pretty entertaining, quite honestly. A complete departure, a complete turnaround from the past, I believe it was 4 Pitt, West Virginia games that I've watched since I've started covering this team 6 years ago. Um, it felt cathartic in a lot of ways. I mean, I was tweeting about it all night, and I was talking about it on the ride home, but I just kept looking up towards the relatively small section of, Oakland Zoo members that were tucked away in kind of the furthest reaches of the the WVU Coliseum, as the Panthers polished off an 80-63 win over West Virginia, their first in their last 6 attempts. Uh, and it was just I've seen that a similar phenomenon happen before. I've seen West Virginia fans do what the Oakland Zoo did tonight in Morgantown. I've seen West Virginia fans do that in the Pete multiple times. I think 3 times now. Um, I've seen them wave goodbye to fans as they left at the end of a blowout. I've seen them talk their, pardon my language, but talk their shit and revel in it, just revel in it for the last few minutes of the game and long afterwards. I mean, it is just not a familiar feeling, and to watch it unfold in real time, to watch, stray West Virginia fans point at them, yell at them, and watch the Oakland Zoo just point back and laugh at them and point at the scoreboard. It was you could feel the energy, you could feel the joy and the catharsis coming out of those fans up there. It wasn't a ton of people. I'll admit that. I mean, it was not, a million people, but they were loud. They were loud the entire time. You could hear them, and Pitt gave them every reason to be loud because Pitt played a great game. Pitt played a game that it desperately needed to pull of itself out of a rut, and I think I think the best place to kinda start our kinda game analysis is that Pitt needed this win so, so badly. I mean, losing 3 of the last 4 and kind of the context around those, I think, is important too. Starting 4-0 against 4 mid-majors, rattling off 4 more against, high major opponents, finishing it with a 5th in this game, but teetering on the edge, only beating a really pretty poor Oregon State team and losing in pretty decisive fashion. I mean, you could say Clemson was pretty close. That was an encouraging showing in the Clemson game, but Missouri was pretty decisive of a loss, it felt like. Florida as well. I mean, it felt like going into this game that Pitt had mostly lost to teams that it was supposed to lose to teams that were to teams that were better than them. I think Missouri is maybe up in the air. But coming into this game, this West Virginia game, I mean, there's all that history behind it, but Pitt is the demonstrably better team here. And I think we knew that going in. I mean, you look up and down the roster, there's no depth for West Virginia. They're breaking in a new head coach. I mean, a legend got fired over the summer, and it broke up this fantastic recruiting class that they had. And, Pitt just had every reason to win this game, and you still felt like they came in on kind of uneven footing because of what had happened in their last few games. And despite all that, Pitt just played the game that they were supposed to. They used their depth really well. The bench was incredibly valuable. We'll talk about that in a second. Blake Hinson was Blake Hinson. He dominated this game. He shot so many shots that he attempted so many shots that you just would lose your mind at if it was literally anyone else on the planet besides Blake Hinson, who you have seen make those kinds of shots over and over again. And then Carlton Carrington was great, especially when Ish Leggett picked up 2 fouls and had to sit for most of the first half. They got defensive contributions from up and down the lineup. I even thought, I mean, even though he only played 14 minutes, Federico took a step forward. The bench was great. I mean, it was just a top to bottom effort that Pitt needed so badly. And especially when you consider their next 3 games come against mid majors, low majors, however you want to label them, non-power conference opponents. It's a perfect runway to getting into ACC play and entering with some confidence before you got to, I believe, host Syracuse. Let me see if I have my schedule right in front of me. I think that is no, that's a road game. But either way, before you take that trip up to Syracuse, you can do it with some confidence. They should be 9-3 when they go up there, and that is a pretty good place to be. The Panthers are already back in the top 50 of KenPom after this win. Just a lot to like. Just a lot to like. And so let's run down some of the stuff that we did like. Let's start with Blake Hinson, man. This was a vintage performance, and I say vintage, but he still set, a career high in 3-pointers made. He set a school record in 3-pointers made with 9. He was 9 of 15. 9 of 15. Let me say that again. 9 of 15. That's 60% from 3-point range on 15 attempts. That's ridiculous. That doesn't happen. And I mean, you listen to the West Virginia postgame press conferences, and they didn't have an answer, and they kept getting asked, like, what do you do in that situation when a guy's just raining threes on you? And they didn't really have an answer, and I don't blame them because you can't. I mean, there was a really outstanding forward from West Virginia who played a great game, and I want to make sure I get his name right. Quinn Slazinski, 22 points and 6 rebounds, but he God bless him, he took every question and talked for about 8 or 9 minutes, and they kept asking him, "Hey, what did you see from Hinson? And what do you do when a guy like that is that hot?" And all he could do was say, "I I don't really know." Like, he felt like he played really good defense, and he felt like guys were in Hinson's shirt all night, and I think he's right. I think Hinson just made some really, really difficult shots for the most part, and he just made them pay in every worst way, you know? Um, it was one of those performances where you're watching it and you see every successive shot go in, and you just laugh, Like, in the second half, as they started to run up the score a little bit. I mean, you can call it that. I don't. I mean, a 17-point win is a 17-point win. That's not necessarily a huge victory, but I mean, Hinson hit some threes in this game that are just they shouldn't be attempted by a normal human being, but when you watch him, he has this mystifying effect of just making you feel comfortable with the stupidest of shots, and it's mesmerizing when he is on and when he is hitting his shots and when he's really just when he's Blake Hinson. And I mean, it was just a special performance. I mean, a school record in threes tells you that, but man, it was fun to watch. And this is a guy who is also really heating up. It's a guy who I felt like has really looked the part of a superstar over the past. I'm trying to pull up his stats now, but it's been the past couple of games that Blake has really looked like the guy that we all thought he could be, Um, a little bit more diverse, but still kind of maintain, diverse offensively, and just in terms of his shot selection and the things he's able to do, and at the same time still shooting the freaking lights out from just about everywhere on the court. So it just an unbelievable. I mean, he set a career high against in points against Clemson, and then set a new career high this time out against uh against West Virginia. I believe he's set 3 different career scoring highs, like new career scoring highs in 3 different games this year. He has now 5 5 uh 20-point outings. He has 4 25-point or more outings. It it's just he's made 5 or more threes, 3 times now. He's made 4 or more 6 times, and all that, and he's rebounding the ball really well too. He's still an above average rebounder, despite all that, and so Blake Hinson, I think we all knew this. He was this team's best player, and he's proving that even more and more. And now we're kind of expanding the reach of, okay, well, he's the best player on the team. Okay, well, he's definitely one of the best players in the conference, if not the best. Okay, well, like, how far can we push this? Jeff Capel called him one of the best players in the country, and it's really hard to disagree when you watch him play like that. Elsewhere, because there were tons of other contributions, and like when I say this was a desperately needed win, and I add that it was the way that they win that I think made you realize this is what we needed them to look like. This is what you really wanted them to look like when they face a team like this, like that they were better than, but that is still a Power 5 team with some good athletes and some talent. They're maybe a little disjointed right now, but you still got to go one-on-one and beat these guys, and you still got to face that competition and that size and that talent, which I gotta tell you, West Virginia, I feel like still has plenty of. Um, the bench was awesome. Ish Leggett and Federico pick up some early foul trouble. They don't end up playing a ton of minutes. Leggett just 20. I believe that's like 15 minutes off of his season average. Federico just 14 minutes, but uh, Jalen Lowe only played 9 minutes but scored 6 points. He was instant offense. He hit a really difficult step back two over Jesse Edwards, who's 6'11", and probably one of the better defensive centers that you'll find in college basketball. And then he had 2 really smooth layups driving to the rim. The Twins were fantastic as well. Jorge hit an early 3 that I felt like was crucial to kind of keep them in the game and keep them afloat when there was kind of the threat of West Virginia maybe taking over. But he also, did kind of a little bit of everything, to assist, a steal and a block, grab 6 rebounds, all good stuff. And Guillermo Diaz-Graham, 6 of 7 from the field and 15 points, like another offensive spark plug, just like Jalen Lowe. Uh, and I'm gonna save kind of the best for last, but I'll tell you that after getting shut out in the last game against Clemson, Pitt's bench was outscored 8-0. Against West Virginia, they outscore them 25-3 in bench points. And I mean, West Virginia's got really no bench to speak of, but they still went 9 deep in this game. More like 8. I mean, only one guy played a minute and a half. But Pitt dominated the bench, and I mean, that's what we knew was going to be one of the big advantages, and they took full advantage. And but I mentioned 3 guys who played really well today. None of them played as well as William Jeffress. He led the game in plus minus at plus 22. All that while scoring just 1 point. He grabbed 9 rebounds, a steal. Nothing he did, I think, is going to show up on the box score, but he played incredible defense. The way he controlled the glass was so crucial to helping Pitt finish off defensive possessions uh, and get out in transition, find some easier buckets, especially in the second half when Pitt really started to surge. You look at just like the line score. I mean, Pitt had 36 points in the first half. They scored 44 in the second. West Virginia had 35 at halftime. They ended up with 63. So that's, do the math. That's 28 points. A 28-38, or no, that's not the math. But Pitt was up 1 at halftime, and they won by 17. So they outscored their opponents by 16 in the second half. And I felt like a lot of that was keyed with Jeffress's defense and his energy and his rebounding. And Jeff Cable kind of confirmed that in the postgame. It's just that it's incredible, I think, to think about where William Jeffress came from and what we expected from him, how he kind of fell short of those expectations, got hurt, and then came back to be one of, if not the most valuable guys on this team, a real glue guy, an X factor, a guy that can do some different things. Man, if he ever finds a way to make a corner three. This team and Jeffers himself are just incredibly dangerous. Carlton Carrington, I also felt like had a really good game. Not a bench guy, but played nearly 40 full minutes. Played 38 minutes and 52 seconds, but hit 3 threes. All of them I felt like were difficult. None of them were just like spot up, catch and shoot. He had to really create them. They made him work, but he played right through it, scored 16 points, 9 assists, which is awesome. 9 assists to 1 turnover, and 6 of 13 from the floor. Just getting back to who he is and doing it, I feel like for the first time against West Virginia's bad. Like I don't think they're particularly good, but to do it against a power conference team, no matter how bad they are, that's huge and that's a step forward. And Blake Hinson, we talked to him a while ago, I think after the Missouri loss, and he said these guys, he's talking about Carrington and Lowe, and I think you saw it with both of them today that these are guys who were really affected by pressure and by physicality earlier in their careers, and they are learning how to not let that affect them as much. They're not struggling; they are learning, is what Hinson said from today. That those lessons are coming across, and that those lessons are really taking shape and taking hold on these guys. If there's anything to nitpick from this game, I think it's first kind of the shot selection generally. I mean, I know they were making their threes today. They shot 42%, 16 to 38. Don't know if that's the best strategy going forward. I liked the way they adjusted. So you saw them in the first half. I believe they shot 23 of their 38 threes in the first half. So only 15 in the second. They found driving lanes. I mean, West Virginia obviously had to make an adjustment after a team makes 9 threes in a half. You got to make an adjustment. You got to attack the 3-point line. You got to close out a little bit harder. Pitt recognized that. And once they were able to kind of get, and we'll get to this in a minute, but Leggett with the 2 fouls, I feel like that could have been really costly. They were able to survive that. Thanks a lot to the bench. Thanks to Jalen Lowe. Other guy, Guillermo and Jorge Diaz-Graham providing some offense. And then obviously Hinson. But once Leggett got back into the game in the second half, he was really able to take over as a driver. He took advantage of all those open lanes because I think one of the key adjustments that West Virginia made, and I noticed it early in the half, is that they were kind of like they were doubling. And you rarely see a double on the 3-point line on the perimeter, but they were doubling Blake Hinson. And almost every time Blake made the right play when he got the ball, to swing it back around and to find someone whose defender was getting taken away by the double. And so they got a bunch of open looks by just giving the ball to Blake, letting the double come, swinging it back around, and then a guy takes a drive. And Leggett was a pretty big beneficiary of that. That said, so Leggett picked up a technical foul early that, I mean, who knows what was going on? It was literally 45 seconds into the game. So who knows if he said something, the refs are just trying to send a message. I felt like it was, if that's the case, it's a little heavy-handed. I mean, that's without knowing what was actually said or done or anything like that. But then he picked up another personal like pretty quickly after. So they had to spend most of the first half with Leggett on the bench. And that is not something that they will be able to survive very often moving forward. So it's got to be something that they avoid. That's another. I mean, it's so, but that's like pretty much it. I mean, like this was. I mean, don't go into halftime with just a 1-point lead over a team like this. You're definitely better than that. But I mean, look, I mean, to be able to survive losing Leggett, who is your second best, I don't even know about second best, but your best creator on offense. Like, for as much as I like Blake, I don't know how good he is at creating his own shot. Leggett is absolutely really good at creating his own shot, especially off the bounce. And I think that was especially crucial in this game when they were trying to make an adjustment and go from being a spot up 3-point team to taking advantage of some of these looks they have at the basket. So, if possible, try to keep Ish out of foul trouble. I think you also need more from Federico still. I mean, like only 14 minutes. I think he was on the wrong end of a couple bad foul calls, so that could change things as well, but he also had 3 turnovers in just 14 minutes. That's no bueno. So, some stuff to work on, but, I mean, Jeff Capel said at the very end of his press conference, he likes where they're at. He feels like through this real difficult stretch of 5 straight against Power 5 opponents, he feels like he's learned a lot about this team and about, who they are and what they need to work on before, they really get into the teeth of ACC play, and that's what we're looking forward to. We've got 3 low majors, like I said, beginning with I wanna get it right, but I'm 90% sure it is South Carolina State. No, damn, it's the game after. Canisius on December 9th, that's the Saturday, then South Carolina State the next day, so the next weekend. So, you know, some stuff to look forward to. Purdue, Fort Wayne after that, and then a big road trip to Syracuse. So, big win for the Panthers. Lots to look forward to. I appreciate y'all tuning in to this Inside Pitt post-game report, recapping the West Virginia win, a crucial one. I hope you'll stay tuned with me through this week. We'll have some more great content for you coming all through this week on the YouTube channel. So make sure you like this video and subscribe to us. That's youtube.com/@Inside the Panthers. And then follow all of our reporting at InsideThePanthers.com. Like I said, appreciate all of you tuning into this video, and I will talk to you